The Lakers stars are turning on. The front office is following one of the most interesting seasons in Lakers history and one of the most disappointing seasons in recent memory. Lakers stars, their players, and even their fans have started to turn on Rob Pelinka. We're going to break down exactly what was said from the Lakers players and discuss what it means going forward as it has fans absolutely fired up. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, as well as a few other updates following the season officially being concluded. So stay tuned for all that in this episode, folks. But before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable, and thank you guys for that. We're going to have content for you all off season long, so make sure to stay tuned and make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Your guys' support's been unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot to go over today. Now, obviously, we've been talking on the channel a lot about moves that have to be made in the offseason. We were focused on, of course, the actual postseason. Now that that's done, we actually had their end of season press conference yesterday, and we heard some bombshell comments from some players. And again, reading between the lines a little bit here, Rui Hachimura came out and said, he was asked basically, what was one of the problems with this team? We couldn't get rebounds. We need somebody to get rebounds. I need to be one of them. And this is interesting. And you kind of see, again, the quote is, it's interesting. He's saying we couldn't get rebounds, which is, of course, the case. They don't have a center. We need somebody to get rebounds. And then he, of course, kind of backtracks a little bit saying, I need to be one of them. So he's calling out Rob Pelinka here. And not necessarily Rob Pelinka directly, but he's calling out the front office and saying, hey, it's pretty clear what we need from Rob Pelinka. As you can see, we need a starting center. And they had Jackson Hayes. This is going to be the biggest conversation all offseason long. They had Jackson Hayes. They didn't use him. They had, Maxi Kleber, who they tried to use, and he wasn't great. But again, it was his first game since January. The team was flawed. And this wasn't the season to really go all in. And it wasn't the season where they were going to go all in, especially after the Mark Williams trade. But you need, if you're Rob Pelinka, he could have done, a better job at making a deal at the deadline. They could have signed a better center than Alex Len. That was, a mistake on his part. But at the end of the day, you need somebody to get rebounds. And Rui Hachimura directly said that. We need somebody to get rebounds. It can't be me. Also went on to say that he's not 7'1". We need somebody who can do that. And then they also asked LeBron about if the Lakers' centerless play style eventually caught up to them in this series. His response in a joking tone, no comment. My guy AD said what was needed, and he was gone the following week, which is, again, he's joking. And I'm not saying that, they're saying, wow, Rob Pelinka is a horrible GM, fire him, all these different things. But they're putting pressure on Rob Pelinka. They're putting, they're not really, they're really starting to turn on the fact that, hey, now turn on him a little bit. We need to get a center. It is as simple as that. And that has been the huge conversation. And whether you're a Lakers fan, whether you're any fan across the NBA, reporters, they're all saying, hey, Rob Pelinka kind of messed up here. Now the narrative has suddenly switched from Rob Pelinka being the best GM in basketball for fleecing Luka Doncic to suddenly, did the Mavericks win the trade? A defense wins championships, all these things, when the whole time, even though they lost a series, they didn't have a center. So I think it's a mix of a couple different things here, but these comments are very interesting. And I do tend to agree, we know LeBron jokes, but he's also joking without joking. They need a center. Rui Hachimura, on the other hand, he was one of the guys who was privy to having to play that small ball five, having to play the 4, and really try to box out Rudy Gobert, who, to make things worse, had the best game of probably, his playoff career against the Lakers yesterday. And it just put everything into perspective about, hey, this team needs a center. And JJ Redick also came out and said, okay, we couldn't, and they asked, why didn't you use Jackson Hayes? They clearly didn't trust Jackson Hayes, which is interesting because they were using him a lot during the regular season, but again, matchup dependent. He said, hey, we weren't scoring the ball with, a center on the floor. So we had to go small so that way we would be able to score the ball. And obviously the negative of that is defense. And Luka Doncic's defense was bad. This team needs defenders, whether it just be a rebounder. They need him. They need a rebounder. They need a defender. They need 3D wing and a rebounder. So two number one goals here. We need somebody to get rebounds. And again, this was the quote that really blew up. And I'm very curious to see what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. Do you think, that the players are turning on Rob Pelinka? And when I say turning, I don't necessarily mean they're, saying he's bad or anything like that, but they're turning on the fact that, hey, they didn't give, and not every player is going to be with the Lakers next year. They didn't give 40-year-old LeBron a good enough team at this point to win a championship. And that's not really his fault. He made the move for Luka Doncic. This was a move for the future rather than necessarily this year. They made the wrong call with Alex Len, and maybe they should have let the Mark Williams trade go through. We saw the Mark Williams tweet that happened. Maybe they should have just, brushed that off. Maybe they could have made another trade. There's a lot of different avenues here. I think their play is for this offseason where they go out, they try to get a guy like Nick Claxton, Clint Capella, someone like that, and they're not going to solve the problem, but they're going to try to make a big swing. They need to get a defensive-minded wing. Maybe they throw Austin Reaves in some trade scenarios, but the pressure is fully on Rob Pelinka now. You made the move. Fantastic. You got your promotion. You got your extension. You got your raise. You got Luka Doncic. All fantastic moves. You need to get somebody who can rebound because it was clear what this team was lacking, and it was directly on, I want to say directly on the front office. We're not giving them a center, but you got to put some blame on the players as well. LeBron looked tired out there. You could definitely put some blame on JJ Redick, who is taking a little bit of heat, taking a little bit of fire because of playing LeBron James so much in game. The game before last. At the end of the day, folks, is in game 4. At the end of the day, the Lakers are set up very good for the future. They have their pieces, and that's something that we wouldn't have said if they would have had AD and LeBron. But the thing that hurts is they probably would have went farther with AD and LeBron as opposed to Luka and LeBron this year, just because they wouldn't have lost to the Timberwolves, probably. But a few other things to go over here. DFS in his first season in LA. Being here is amazing. Make it to the 3 seed. Luka coming in February is a big surprise. Happy to be back with my dog. Just mad right now, though, that our season ended. He's going to be a part of the team, going forward, we'd assume. And he didn't have a great series. He didn't have a great, really overall season with the Lakers. There were some games where he flashed his defensive brilliance, but his offense needs to step up. And ultimately, this team needs more scoring as well. And I'm not talking about scoring from Luka and LeBron. Those two guys are going to get theirs. You don't have much tertiary scoring. Austin Reaves, and you need guys who can play both sides of the ball. Austin Reaves, 20 points per game in the regular season, struggled a lot because of the lengthy defenders. The Timberwolves, horrible matchup for him. He's going to be fine. But at the same time, you have some redundancy there. You need somebody who can play defense and shoot the ball. You need a 3-and-D wing. And we're going to dive into all offseason, all the different potential additions and avenues they can go. Anthony Irwin coming out and saying the irony of the Lakers never filling AD's request for a center, essentially sinking them in this series, will never be lost. And we think back to before the Luka trade, it feels like ages ago, where Anthony Davis came out and he was a beast at the time. And he, of course, said, hey, we still need another center so I can play my natural position. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Because AD wanted to play the 4, they wanted a 5. They got rid of AD. I don't think it was because of that. It's because, of course, the natural inclination to trade for Luka Doncic. Absolutely crazy, weird situation. But it was right, and LeBron James is right here. Rob still probably should have done a better job. But LeBron James and the team since acquiring Luka, I still don't think we had enough time to mesh. So at the end of the day, the team has now the entire offseason to mesh. You have Vando being able to get healthy. You have DFS. Hopefully you can make some moves. It's going to be a crazy offseason for the Lakers. They have a ton of things to do, a ton of avenues to go. We're going to be covering it a ton here on the channel. Of course, their projected salary, all these different things. They need a center. They do have a ton of free agents. Now, I think they're going to bring Dorian Finney-Smith back. Everyone else is still up in the air. LeBron James is a player option. Dorian Finney-Smith is a player option. I'd assume he's going to stay. But ladies and gentlemen, they don't have a ton of picks, right? They don't have a ton of picks. They don't have the first-round pick in 2025, so nothing at this year's draft. At the end of the day, you don't have your pick this draft. You have to just go ahead and make moves around the edges, and hopefully they can improve this team. But I think the biggest thing for them is just going to be spending time together in the offseason, Luka and LeBron, and hopefully they can get a center and take another run at it next season. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be covering you all off-season long videos every single day. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. Unfortunately, the Lakers season ended, but this is just the beginning for videos on our end. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.